When I bought my home in Maplewood Ridge, I was looking for a slower pace, somewhere quiet where I could finally get my hands in the dirt without the roar of city politics or state bureaucracy ringing in my ears. For the last decade, I've been the state tax commissioner, reviewing and regulating taxation policy across everything from inheritance loopholes to business levies. Numbers are my world, but on weekends I prefer tomatoes to tax codes. So when I started my backyard garden, an organic patch with heirloom vegetables, native herbs, and a greenhouse for year-round growth, it was more than a hobby. It was peace. I shared cucumbers with my neighbors, donated extra produce to the local food bank, and even invited kids over to learn how to plant seedlings. It became a little ecosystem of its own. Apparently, though, not everyone appreciated it. 3 months in, I got a knock on the door from Brent Mallory, a stiff-collared, clipboard-wielding member of the Maplewood Ridge HOA board. He eyed the backyard over my shoulder like it was a crime scene. "Mr. Harris, we've received complaints," he said, in the tone of someone who enjoys paperwork just a bit too much. "It appears you're operating a commercial enterprise." I blinked. "A commercial what?" "The garden," he said, flipping through his binder. "It's been deemed a productive operation under the HOA's updated bylaws. Section 9C states that any property generating material goods may be subject to community contribution fees." "Community contribution fees?" I asked. Brent straightened. "A tax, 25 cents per square foot of cultivated land. It'll be assessed quarterly. First installment due in 2 weeks." I stared at him. "You're taxing my zucchini." He didn't smile. "And who exactly determined this productive land rule?" "The board approved it unanimously last month." I chuckled and Brent frowned. "Is there a problem, Mr. Harris?" "Only that you're inventing a tax without authority," I said, "and I would know." He cocked his head. "I'm the state tax commissioner," I said, producing my credentials. "Your tax isn't a tax. It's an illegal assessment with no legal foundation, especially since this garden is for personal use and occasional donation, not commerce." His eyes darted to my badge. I could practically hear the internal backpedaling. "Well, the board was just trying to maintain fairness, resource usage, community equity, that sort of thing." "Then they should have consulted a tax professional," I replied, "preferably someone who doesn't mistake vegetables for income." I told him that under state law, HOAs cannot impose taxes, only assessments based on shared services, and even then, only with a transparent vote and clear purpose. My garden, in my fenced backyard, used no community resources and wasn't subject to board regulation unless it posed a hazard, which it didn't. In fact, the HOA Landscaping Committee had even complimented it during a walk-by. Brent sputtered something about needing to review the language and shuffled off with his binder tucked defensively against his chest. But I wasn't done. I drafted a formal letter to the HOA board outlining their overreach, citing specific state statutes and case law. I copied the Department of Homeowner Regulation and attached photographic evidence of the garden's educational and charitable use. Then, just for fun, I added an appendix showing how their new garden tax could technically make half the neighborhood's flower beds and decorative shrubs taxable under their logic, including the HOA president's $12,000 ornamental koi pond. Within a week, the assessment was quietly revoked. The HOA issued a letter stating they had reevaluated community feedback and would not be pursuing fees related to private gardens. Several neighbors approached me afterward, thanking me for standing up. One older woman brought me a homemade pie and said, "They tried to charge me for my daffodils last year." Now I run a small gardening club on Saturdays for the neighborhood. No fees, no fines, just dirt, sun, and a lot of laughter. And Brent, he keeps his distance, though I did see him eyeing the tomato plants the other day. The lesson? Know your soil and your statutes, especially when they try to tax your carrots without a clue who they're dealing with.